Welcome back. The organisation Equal Education says our education system is still grossly unequal 30 years into democracy.
It's pointed out that there are still many young people, particularly in rural and township schools, who are battling to get the kind of quality education that they deserve. We're now joined from Cape Town by Mahfouz Raffee, and researcher at Equal Education. Mr. Raffee, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for your time. A few months ago, of course, your organization led a march to Parliament to demand the prioritization and realization of equal and quality education for all learners. Do you feel you have been listened to? I mean, watching all these politicians crisscrossing the country, trying to convince us that they can offer us better quality education. Do you feel you are listened to?
Greetings. Good afternoon to you and to your viewers. Yes, on the 10th of May, actually, quite recently, we led a march of over 2,000 high school students, primarily who are our members, who marched to Parliament to demand on the current administration accountability for its failures, as well as a warning to potential political parties vying for state power, what it is that we are fighting for, what it is that is needed, and the scale and the breadth of interventions needed to ensure that basic education is realizable, it's equitable, and the quality is afforded to all. And so recently, what we've actually just put out, you can have a look at it on our website, is an analysis of various parties' manifestos and their commitments to providing education. We particularly looked at some of the campaigns that we've been fighting for as equal education, and that our learners have said are causing severe problems to their rights to access quality education at schools. These are problems like overcrowding of schools, infrastructure. We know that the government has failed to meet several of its deadlines to meet the minimum norms and standards for school infrastructure, and keeps failing them. Other key issues are around the inclusion of all learners, including those most marginalized by society. Safety and psychosocial support is a key aspect. And reading, we believe that this needs to be prioritized as in early education. As we know, 81% of grade 4 students under the PEARLS examination could not read for meaning in any language. And so serious efforts need to be taken by the incoming government to prioritize education, to ensure that it's adequately resourced, and to ensure that learners across the country receive quality and equal education. And it's something that we have been fighting for since our inception, that learners have been driving. I think it's been in public discourse throughout these 16 years, but it's something that we will continue to make sure that is delivered, and accountably so, by an incoming government and party.
And Mahfouz, I mean, in a way, an election should really be a festival of ideas about education, right? I mean, in a perfect world, if we look at some of the most important things, you would think we should all be talking about how better to improve the education system. Are there any ideas in any of the manifestos that you think, oh, that's a good idea, it doesn't matter who wins, let's do that?
Yeah, look, I mean, it is unfortunate that there is quite a dearth of imagination across the various contesting parties. Of course, every party will say that we intend to improve education. Many parties have committed to improving early childhood development, which is an important intervention, and much research has been done into that. Unfortunately, what we're seeing as well is a rise in right-wing, really scary rhetoric around excluding certain groups of individuals from education, around reintroducing more conservative curriculum measures that would make it harder for learners in queer communities, for learners from who have migrated from other countries to access quality education. And this is a growing rhetoric, not just in the education policies, but across various aspects. And that's something to be worried about when considering who to vote for in this upcoming election. Looking at interventions to improve education, there is some interesting ideas and some disruptions. I mean, disagreement about where parties think would be useful to intervene to improve quality education. You know, some parties, it's very easy to say, let's raise the pass mark to 50%. But if that's done without proper analysis of some of the problems, the structural, deep-rooted problems facing learners in accessing education, such as overcrowding, such as infrastructure, if schools are not properly resourced to deliver a quality education, then this will further marginalize learners. So parties, I think, while many of them say that they support education, it's in their manifestos, it's often just a platitude, and what we need is a firm commitment and sincere, measurable commitments that they will fix education with the structural difficulties that it currently faces.
Well, I mean, virtually everyone says they will spend more. They will prioritize education, meaning they will throw more money into it. You've been calling for an end to the government, or what you deem to be the government's, austerity when it comes to education. And a counter-argument to that has been that as a country, a percentage, of the GDP, we spend more on education than we spend on most items. It's right there at the top. Is it about how much we spend on education, or is it about whether we're getting bang for our buck?
Look, I must also say another worrying trend is that some parties are not, in fact, pledging to spend more on education. Many parties are advocating for reduced public expenditure, reduced public services, and introducing private actors not only into the likes of ESCOM, but also into the education system. And this is something that's a major concern for us. We've seen the failures of some of the collaboration and donor funded schools in the Western Cape, which once the donors pulled out, have left poor and Black students in a really, really precarious situation. Their schools far worse than would be if proper public funding was given to public education. So this is something that still needs to be prioritized. If we look at, sure, it is prioritized in the terms of percentage of the government's overall spending, but if we look at the state of resources in schools, there's woeful underspending. We know that there are several vacancies, thousands of teachers who are unemployed, despite there being classes of over 50, over 60 in various schools. So more money needs to be spent, and it needs to be spent correctly. We know that the Department of Basic Education has had serious problems with wasteful, fruitless, and irregular expenditure. It consistently ranks amongst the top 3 worst performing departments in this sense. And so definitely, at both sides of the coin, they're not mutually exclusive. More resources need to be given to education, and the way that it's spent is a cause of serious concern, and it needs to be improved so that the money that's directed to learners is received by them.
Mahfouz, Raffee, thank you. A researcher at Equal Education. Really appreciate the time on Ballot Brief tonight.